Welcome everybody to the IAFC Technology Council monthly webinar series. Next slide, Deb. The IAFC represents the all hazards, all risk response leaders of the fire service and emergency management service throughout the world. Our members are the world's leading experts in firefighting, EMS, terrorism response, hazmat, natural disaster, search and rescue, wildland fire mitigation, response, and public safety. Next. The Technology Council serves as a knowledge center for technological developments that affect the fire service. The council provides a forum for information and knowledge exchange among different stakeholders, including fire chiefs, public safety organizations, and our vendor members. Our vision is to advance the fire rescue, EMS services, and allied agencies to be on the leading edge of technological adaptation. Our chairman, Chief Dan Muncie, San Bernardino County Fire Department, and our vice chair, Tim Burke, Spring Fire Department out of Texas, serve as the chairs of the council and guide us through our purpose for serving the IAFC membership as well as fire and emergency services throughout the world. Next. We host these monthly webinars as a way to demo new and exciting technology that the fire and emergency services might or might not know of. As today, you're going to find out about a company out of New Zealand that has got a really exciting technology that they're going to share with us and then seek our input. And that's really what we do here is we want to make sure that we have a two-way dialogue with our vendor partners so that they can make the technology that we need and serves our purposes. Please be sure to keep your microphones on mute unless you're asking a question. We'll take the questions at the end of the presentation, but during the presentation, feel free to type in the chat box any questions that we can ask the moderator at the end of the session. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter for today, Debbie Murphy, President of Ops Central. Debbie?
Thank you very much, Jeff. Hi, everyone. So I'm Debbie Murphy, the president of Ops Central, and thank you very much for having us here today. Joining me today, who you can't see at the moment, is Tom Plunkett, who heads up the technology side of Ops Central, and Lou Jones, who takes ownership over the roadmap. They're here to listen to your feedback and will be joining us in the Q&A session. So if you've got any curly technology questions, I will definitely be sending them over to Tom. I'm going to start with a little bit of context on who we are and why we are sitting here today, before moving on to what we've learned about the industry, what we have developed, and then how we'd like to work with you to reimagine the future of the fire service. And with that, I'm going to turn my video off. Right. So this is us in a little bit of an infographic. So Ops Central was actually born out of a company called Provoke Solutions, and Provoke has been working for 2 decades building kind of custom software for a range of different industries from banking to defense. But Provoke's very first customer was actually Fire and Emergency New Zealand, and that relationship is still going today. Over the 20 years that Provoke has worked with FENS, they have developed their station management systems, among other solutions. SMS is heavily focused on shift and skills management, although with 20 years of development behind it, you can imagine I'm actually selling it quite short. And Provoke was actually acquired just over 2 years ago by a San Diego-based firm called Bridgewest. They have an ecosystem of companies around the world. We were asked to do a demo to the new owners of various software solutions that we built. And one of them questioned why we had done such extensive work with just one fire department in the world and not utilized all this learning in other countries. And for those of you that know, Fire and Emergency New Zealand is one of the few kind of national fire services. So actually still, even though we're a small country, pretty big in terms of fire departments on a world scale. I was on the exec team at Provoke at the time, and given my previous experience working at FENS, I was certainly not a firefighter, but I was in the digital team for about 4 or 5 years, going back a little while. I was very quick to put my head up and take on the challenge to work with the global fire service community. We're a small but growing team who live in New Zealand, but we kind of originate from all over the world. Between us, we have a wealth of knowledge from over 20 different industries. I actually did a count, especially for this, and just to make the boxes aligned, I stuck at 20, but there were more than that, which is amazing because it actually means we've got a lot of learning from similar challenges in different industries. We're technologists, designers, and business minds with a huge amount of empathy and respect for the jobs that you do. And I feel privileged to be a part of creating something that can make such a difference. As people that work in technology, we're often in a position where we're making banks more money or making a logistics company more efficient. But to actually get to make a difference might be the core of your jobs, but it is a fairly amazing and new feeling to us. Um, right, we've done a bunch of interviews with industry experts. At first, we actually set out with the intention of developing a new version of the station management system, but very quickly learned that there are more pressing challenges in the industry. We conducted multiple interviews across the US, Australia, Canada, and the UK, and of course New Zealand. And no matter how far the department was in their technology journey, there was a huge amount of consistency in their challenges. We covered topics like how the fire service has evolved, different types of incidents, the current state of technology, change management and adoption, which we know is a big challenge, the value of information types. And we asked them to tell us stories. I think it's really important to actually get ourselves in the mindset of an incident, even though it won't be the same as experiencing it. We discovered that there are many departments who still respond to incidents with little more than an address and an incident type. Plenty are still using paper manuals in the back of a truck. Firefighters were often using their own consumer apps to find the right information and having to piece information together in their heads. We had one firefighter say that they felt that the solution was just to buy them 16 different tablets and put them in the truck. Now, in this day and age where I can pick up my phone and find out just about anything, it actually blew my mind that we're not doing everything possible to protect the people who protect us. Here are some snippets from our interviews.
There's really no single data source that's typically available that can distinctively provide structured, contextual, reliable, applicable data that results and provides both timely, retrievable information, and then accounts for the comprehensive interpretation, analysis, and recognition that would influence decision making.
It's our national fire incident reporting system, and it's a very cumbersome product. It's a product that you have to go in online and plug in data in each boxes, and it's a great tool to turn around and use for data, yet it would be really nice if we could figure out a way how we can get that information from there quicker.
I'm not going to have a screen, a smartphone, a tablet, a computer in front of me that's going to overload me with information, and I'm going to be so confused. What do I look at? No, you're going to give me a buffet of information. I'm going to choose what I need at the moment.
How could I know where every single helicopter in the entire area of operations in Iraq was, getting a blip every 5 seconds on a Blue Force tracker, and I don't know where another engine's coming from?
We have many applications that are currently available that are typically time-consuming, error-prone, incomplete, incompatible, extraneous, inaccurate, fragmented, and more often than not, siloed.
While I'm responding, I might be looking at information. I might be looking at an aerial view of the building. I know the address. It's showing me the streets. It's showing me my water supplies. It's showing my fire department connections to the fire protection system. It's showing me where the utilities come into the building. And then from there, if I know what the alarm is, whether it be a building, a complex, or a site, a construction site, or a wildland fire, I'll know all of it. I'll pick the information as I choose.
We want to know the date of the last inspection, any deficiencies or hazards that were in this building. Is there an outstanding correction order? How many times have we been called to this address and why? Now, do I need this information when I have a trapped occupant claim showing? No. What I need to do at that point is I need to solve the problem in front of me.
And although we have a lot of information flow, we don't have a very effective way to manage that ability to identify, extrapolate, connect some of the patterns that the data may be giving us in terms of that availability, and then utilize the human performance part of it, our minds and our abilities based upon how we've been trained to react to that information.
You know, we go out, we perform inspections and things like that. We gather intelligence and we put it in a place that we can access it and make it work for us.
So this information, I know it was termed as cognitive overload, but it just isn't correctly sorted and filtered. So pushed information versus pulled or retrievable information is very, very important. We as fire officers have greater control over the pulled information point, that we intentionally seek it out. But instead of being immediately accessible, a lot of this information now just sits in these repositories, right? It's got these proprietary databases, these libraries, online journals, filing cabinets, discussion groups. Sometimes it's even in our chats with our colleagues or informal discussions. It's all this information that we have stored that's really in a pulled or retrievable form sometimes, but just not immediately accessible.
But it would be a program that gives us the fastest response, and maybe you can control the traffic lights as well with the city infrastructure. But it would also give me an alert that if there's another fire apparatus that's responding from another into another direction, if you will, because not all fire apparatuses are actually responding from the fire hall or the house. It gives us an alert where we could have an intersection, we would merge and maybe have an accident.
The risks have evolved tremendously and really have elevated to a much higher level of severity and urgency and growth regarding our incidences and the manner in which we are coordinating and operating and mitigating those incidences.
You know, I could sit here in my kitchen. I won't mention her name, but I could ask her the weather, play a song for me and this and that. I mean, I was walking from the living room into the kitchen, my wife's sitting in the kitchen, and I said, honey, I would like to, and all of a sudden this person responds, and my wife says, what goes on in this house when I'm not here? But I can speak to Siri. I would like to be able to speak voice to a computer, phone, iPhone, tablet. But no, I'd like to ask the buffet of information. Ask the computer exactly what I need. Show me a visual of the building. Okay, show me a floor plan of the 6th floor. That's where the reported fire or the event location is located. All of these things, that's where we hope to go one day.
I would also think we could have some risk profiles added to it. And definitely from the utilities department, why aren't we getting from all the different utilities of what's coming into all those different types of buildings or those types of properties? This kind of information, like you said, is broad-based, and it's across the county, it's across the cities and across the towns. And we should probably have all that information in one place to be successful as we're going to those calls.
So we were called to a multi-tenant structure. There was actually, it was a subdivided house into 9 separate rooms. There was 8 tenants. But when we pulled up, we had no idea how many tenants were there, how many were out of the building. The manager couldn't locate those people. So one of the first things that would have been helpful is to know everybody was out of the structure. I had no technology to do that. I had no sensory capabilities. I had nothing other than an actual search of the structure, which took quite some time given where the fire was and due to some hoarding issues. Even the layout of the building, which had been changed several times due to reconstruction and modifications, there was no map. I had no layout of that structure. So even finding out where the fire was interesting, and finding the access point. The temperatures inside of that building would have been really nice to know, because it continued to build up to the point where we did have that smoke explosion. Fortunately, the smoke telegraphed that to us. We saw the yellowish, dark colored smoke. It's building, the volume, the velocity, the density, and the color all just basically screamed, some conditions are changing, it's getting worse. All crews were pulled out of the building, and then we had the smoke explosion, so there was no one in the building. Another technology aspect beside the temperature sensors would have been to know which resources were coming. There was, I believe, 10 different departments paged to this fire, and they were paged multiple times. Some responded with 1 person or 2, and some responded with 4. And so knowing what we had for resources coming, again, it's a highly high paid on call or volunteer system around here, and only one other career department was really at this scene. So had I been able to know the locations of the people in the building, the layout of the building, the temperatures inside, that would have prompted me to pull that crew out even sooner and given an extra margin safety. As it was barely 30 seconds from the time the crew exited, and that's way too close for comfort. And then also knowing what resources were coming, so you can get a game plan together and play to your strengths instead of just waiting to see who shows up. So that's how I can think of how technology would help me with an incident.
Right. As you can imagine, we've got hours of footage behind all of those, but those clips give you an idea of the kind of conversations that we were having. But you know, even if you talk to kind of 40 or 50 people, you know that can just be the views of a limited group. So we wanted to back that up with interviews with a much broader audience, and we ended up serving nearly 700 firefighters, predominantly in the US, but in other parts of the world as well. In fact, we had a response from every single state, which was awesome. We once again covered a range of broad, open-ended questions on the biggest challenges in the industry, combined with specific questions around the value of information types and views on technology products. There were 30 different questions, and we'd be here all day if I had to go through all of them, but I'm going to point out some key insights from them. We asked which areas people found the most challenging, and while pre-plans and incident intelligence came out on top, there was actually solid representation from a huge range of functions. We also looked deeper into specific information types that are currently missing, and again got a fairly broad range of answers, from building data to resource availability to hazards and hydrant types. And then looking at current technology, this is obviously in general, because there were lots of people using multiple products, generally felt that they fell short in levels of integration and the amount of information or capability that was provided. There were challenges with usability and reliability, and then there were some older products that were slow, outdated, or not fit for purpose. So on the surface, it was actually hard to pinpoint the exact area to focus on. We heard there were challenges in everything from pre-planning to shift management to reporting to training to incident command and incident intelligence. This is a little bit baffling to us. Sure, we know there's always room for improvement, but we also know that they are excellent training programs, you have incredible operational procedures, and it's a generally mature practice. But the more we scratched the surface, it became obvious that the heart of the issue is not actually the functions nor the products that are available. It's the data, is that data remains isolated, fragmented, and piecemeal. As a result, the information that is captured in reporting is of a poor quality, which limits the ability to utilize it effectively for analysis. Being clear to us that in order to improve incident outcomes, we needed to find a way to automate bringing information together. We see it a little bit like this. The gaps lie in between all of the phases of the incident lifecycle, and it's data that can pull them all together. While some improvements can be made in each of the phases, a more substantial improvement can be made by connecting the underutilizing data during each phase and improving the flow of data throughout the life cycle. Which leads us to our mission: to support firefighters with the right information at the right time. Now, unfortunately, we can't fix everything all at once. So we've started with the area we believe does the most to improve incident outcomes, and that is by supporting you with the right information at the right time on the way to and during an incident. Ops Central aggregates, analyzes, and visualizes data from a range of different dynamic and static data sources. Looking through the list here, we've got IoT sensors, surveillance cameras, audio, manual, drones, GPS, social channels, publicly available data, historical data, and existing department data. Now, if you think of all of these things in separate devices or separate ways of actually accessing data, I can't see how it's actually possible to take them all in. But for us, aggregating data is just the starting point. The increasing magnitude of live data in different formats presents both a challenge and opportunity to public safety in making life-critical decisions. On one hand, there's never been more data available to support decision making, but there is a risk in mashing different data sources together without a carefully crafted approach. It can actually add to the complexity. Data from video, audio, and textual and sensors is typically unstructured and presents a significant analytical challenge. The amount of data available is virtually impossible for humans to assess in real time in time-critical situations. Our cloud platform is built to accept a variety of static and real-time data and transform it and present it back to users as information. Having multiple data sources in one screen certainly stops you from having to purchase 16 iPads for every truck, but a huge amount of the value is found in the intersection of data points. Building on the aggregation of data, OpCentral focuses on finding insights gained from combining data sources, and that's the intelligence layer. A few examples of many: knowing the flow rate of hydrants and the size of the buildings on fire would allow us to determine which hydrants to use and which hoses to use so that there's enough water supply for effective fire control. Knowing the certifications of arriving crew members and knowing the building type or plans means that we can put the right people in the right places. Comparing the smoke as displayed by drones with upcoming changes in weather means we can make better fire prediction paths. We want to keep finding and automatically highlighting those relationships. We also know that you can't spend your time with your head buried in a tablet. Layer 3 of our solution is building on the intelligence with visualization crafted specially for eyes-up situational awareness. Our expertise in visualization has meant that we can take these insights, tailor them to the time and situation, and display them in a way that is easy to access the information that you need at the time. We've come up with 5 design principles that we work to. It has to be clear and focused. We have a calm, simple, and clear interface with data that's understandable at a glance, so there's no need to guess what things mean or how they will work. There is a coherent design language, so interactions are predictable and training time is minimized. The design is also modular, which means that there are multiple ways of accessing the same information with different views, filters, and toggles to suit your needs, and layers that will allow you to drill down if you need more detail. To Chief Tracy's point, it's kind of the buffet that you can then go and select what you want. It has to be timely, surfacing the right information at the right time. The interface then is proactive and adapts to the situation. We're also introducing alerts and notifications for changes and anomalies. And once we start gathering more and more data, we'll be able to say that this is, a data source that is doing something that's quite unpredictable and be able to highlight it for you. It has to be trustworthy. We have to tell you what we know, but we also have to not make any kind of false assumptions. Where we're finding where 2 data sources come together gives us an answer, we'll be clear about what they mean and not jump to any kind of conclusions. And accessibility is key. Because your accessibility is always important, but you're dealing with stressful situations and time pressures, we don't want to leave anything for chance. So we're going to be doing ongoing testing to make sure it's easy to navigate and that simple things like the text is the right size or the color coding is clear. Now I can keep explaining what we've done for ages, but nothing is going to explain it better than being able to see it yourself. Before we kick into the demo phase of OpCentral, a few key points to note. It covers a broad range of incident types, but it's only the starting point and the framework for future data sources. It's built to work on any size computer or device, but is optimized for tablets. And the primary user at this stage is the incident commander. And with that, let's take a look at what's been developed.
I'll start by bringing us to the incident overview page, where you'll see a list of all the active incidents in an area. Our overview page is connected to CAD and shows initial information such as incident type, incident location, and the alarm level. From there, we can access the dashboard page by clicking on the details. Here, we're providing up-to-date dispatch notes, as well as which apparatus and units have been assigned to an incident. Beyond this, OpCentral are connecting with other sources of data to continuously provide situational awareness during the course of an incident. Users can switch between the dashboard view and the map view. The map view allows you to change the style from a standard to a hybrid map. All the information that is accessible through the dashboard are also accessible as map layers. Before I show you how these can be utilized within the context of an incident, I'll briefly touch on the data that's currently available in our MVP product. Our building data includes information that's captured during pre-planning. This could include the building construction type, emergency contact, occupancy type, as well as the various accesses to the buildings. And in the map view, we're showing a 3D visual representation of the buildings. Included under the building tab, we're also displaying the fire hydrants. This includes the distance from the incident, their size, and also the flow rates. In an event of a hazardous condition incident, we're also showing the emergency response guides, which are sourced from the US Department of Transportation. These guides provide material-specific information on the potential hazards, public safety measures, as well as specific emergency response guidelines. We've also taken the tables from the original guides on the initial isolation and protective action distances and have given visual representation of these on the map. Our weather is sourced from hyperlocal weather stations to ensure that the information that's provided is as accurate as possible. The weather forecast is going to allow responders to predict how an incident could progress based on the weather conditions. There is also a wind speed and direction animation on the map view. If we turn to the map view, you'll be able to see that we are highlighting places of interest. These places of interest include vulnerable population, including schools, hospitals, and daycare centres, as well as potential hazards. As part of our video feeds, we're taking the CCTV camera feeds from the Department of Transportation, as well as allowing departments to stream their drone feed through OpCentral to give the incident commander an aerial view of the incident. This is something that's traditionally only been accessible to the drone operator themselves. When we combine our route optimization and asset tracking, we're able to guide crews to the incident in the fastest and safest possible routes. This also allows us to track them live on the map to provide the most accurate estimated time of arrivals. Given the dangers associated with electric vehicles, we've incorporated motor vehicle emergency response guidelines. These guides are provided from the vehicle manufacturer themselves and include information on the cut zones and how to safely disable the vehicles in an emergency situation. For the purpose of this demo, we've created a few test incidents in San Bernardino County, California. Dispatch has told us that the structure fire is at the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. Firstly, we need to determine the water supply available at the incident location. Here you'll see that we've identified all the fire hydrants that are available, as well as their distance from the building, their size, and their calculated flow rate. By accessing this information, we're going to be able to determine which hydrants and how much hose is going to be required to effectively control the fire at this structure. We can then proceed to expose the building information that we captured during pre-planning. Let's initially look at the characteristics of the building construction, and then we can determine on which side of the building is the access, as well as the location of the gas and electrical shutoff, and whether or not the stairwells are pressurized. The drone operator has arrived on scene and has launched the drone. We're now able to get an aerial view of the structure and provide this to the incident commander. By analysing the characteristics of the smoke and fire that we see through the video feed and combine that with a weather forecast, in particular the wind speed and direction, we can start to predict how this incident could progress. In this instance, we can see that the wind is coming from the southwest. This is also highlighted on the map with the animated wind overlay. Now that we've established the wind direction, we can start to look at where our vulnerable population are. As you can see, there are a number of schools within the vicinity of this building, and therefore we need to be prepared to deploy resources to evacuate those students to safety. Now let's go back to the incident overview page and have a look at what information is available to support decision making during a hazardous condition incident. In this scenario, we can refer to the dispatch notes to find the initial details about the incident. The notes mention that a truck has overturned on the highway and the truck is transporting sulfur dioxide. The first thing we need to determine emergency response guidelines for sulfur dioxide. Through Ops Central, we can quickly go through the flow chart to enter the material name, which will then surface the relevant guide. As we switch focus to the map view, we can see that an evacuation zone has been determined. Now I can assess which route will be safest for my crew to go on to avoid driving through the downwind evacuation zone. In order for me to plan ahead how this incident could progress should we not manage to get things under control soon, I'm going to override the wind direction based on the forecast weather and change some of the other settings. I need to be aware that as we get to 5 PM, the wind swings to the south and the evacuation zone increases significantly at night. The public school on Cambridge Terrace will be within the evacuation zone, but the risk factors reduce given it's unlikely to be populated at night. There are also a number of other vulnerable population in proximity to the zone that I need to bear in mind as this incident progresses. As we look ahead to what's coming next on the product roadmap over the next few months, we'll be incorporating firefighter tracking capabilities, incident location history data, as well as greater alerting to notify users of changes to the real-time information during an incident.
Right, back to sharing my screen. Thank you so much, Lou, and thank you everyone for your patience there. Right, so where to next? We are ready to go with the functionality that you've just seen. That is no smoke and mirrors, that is fully working. So reach out if it is right for your department. But as I said before, the demo, this is just the beginning, and mainly we need your help defining the rest of the roadmap. Should we focus on asset management to improve efficiency? Should we focus on firefighter vitals, skills, and shift management to help get a greater insight into how to make your job safer? Should we focus on enabling more effective community engagement? Should we develop AI models for smoke detection and fire prediction? Or should we build more automated reporting right from the start? There's no shortage of ideas, but we do want to make sure that we are developing functionality that genuinely makes a difference to you. As I said, we are technologists and we bring with us a wealth of different experiences, but together with your industry knowledge, we are a formidable team. We're looking for the future makers, the innovators, and the early adopters of the industry to work with us to prioritize our roadmap. Please reach out if shaping the future of the fire service excites you.
The incident data lifecycle is broken. We are already working on improving the data you get during an incident to help you make better and faster decisions. But we don't want to stop there. Because incident after incident, learnings and outcome data gets lost. Our vision for Ops Central is to become the single solution for the entire incident lifecycle. Now that we are able to gather more data than ever during an incident, we want to use that data to support your decision making after the incident. By seamlessly capturing this data, we can automatically produce complete and accurate reports and learn from it. Ops Central can identify patterns and provide instant insights from previous incidents to help you with everything from planning to training, budgets, fire prevention, managing your crew and their health. So the next time you have to deal with an incident, your team will be better prepared with even more accurate data to work with, so you can make better decisions faster or even prevent incidents from happening in the first place. We are Ops Central, shaping the future of incident intelligence to support firefighters every step of the way.
Right, and with that, we're going to open it up for questions. Right, there are a bunch there. Right, I might actually stop sharing and put my video back on now.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions that I've got sent direct to me. So one is, how unique is the data to every department?
Right, so you'll see from what we have used there that it's it's data that at this stage that is universally available. We would have to use different data sources to make sure that it's specific. If you think of, say, the traffic cameras, it's not going to come from the same source, but we've actually built our architecture to make sure that we can kind of adapt to whatever source that we've got to work with. We also know that part of the plan has to be being able to work with everybody's own data that they've got already. Otherwise, we're actually just adding to the problem.
Gotcha.
There's a question here about how is the plume model calculated and what source is used. And I would like to really throw this to Lou or Tom if either of them are happy to take it.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to jump on this one.
Thanks.
So we're taking the plume modeling information from the ERG guide from the US Department of Transportation. So they traditionally come in kind of the table form in terms of the initial isolation zone and downwind protective zones. And so we've kind of converted those tables and then obviously given a representation of them on the map.
And can we there's more on the plume models, can they be imported from other programs?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess that fits into our adaptive architecture. We know that, I guess if you think of it as a bunch of fields that we know we need to find, as long as there's an API available, we can actually go and get them from any kind of data source.
Deb, along those lines, so how do y'all work with folks like Esri with data points that are being collected in real time through like a Survey 123 or a mission manager or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I made Mike very sad because it said Mapbox on the bottom of the demo the whole way. I can see him laughing at me right now. But ultimately, we're actually talking to Esri at the moment about working in partnership. And then all the richness that actually comes in Esri maps will be available for everybody. Is there anything that you want to add to that, Mike?
Sorry, Debbie, trying to find my my mute button there. Yeah, we're very excited to partner with Op Central and expanding, you know, the reach of these capabilities throughout the Esri environment. So we'll certainly keep everybody updated as we move forward, and hopefully we can enhance each other's capabilities, you know, for public safety as a whole.
Yeah, hey, this is Allison Yellowshan. I'm the Esri account manager to the IAFC. And I just want to say this was very impressive, and I'm very happy to hear about the partnership that's in process. And, you know, if you run into anything, any questions, or things aren't moving as well as they need to be, or I don't know, hopefully nothing goes sideways, but if anything ever happens, just please reach out to me or to Mike. We're always happy to help any way we can.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Chief Segaris, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Just curious if they could expand a little bit more on how they integrate with other products that could be in use out there across different platforms.
So we know we can't do everything, and we know that there are a lot of great products out there already collecting useful data. Whether it's a product you already use or a product company that would like to work with us, as long as it's an API, we can integrate with it.
Great. If you go back to the question that Jay asked about the plume modeling, are you able also to export? I saw that you had your future wind direction and speed in there. Is there other ways of collecting like humidity and things like that that would be pushed out into another product?
I don't believe that we have built any export capability at the moment, but that's certainly something that we can put on the roadmap and see where it kind of fits in with everyone else's priorities. I see there are more questions coming in, but I'm actually I'm also keen to hear for those of you that do have opinions at this stage, if there are some things that you go, you know what, this will be really useful if you could just add export capability or reporting, that would be awesome as well. And then we can make sure we build this the right way. Right, is there a list of newer vehicles for the diagramming you spoke of? Lou, you can take this, but we have focused on electric vehicles and plan to build it out as far as we need to. But we heard that there were a lot of challenges with electric vehicles and some kind of different cut zones and more details that were needed. So we started there.
In terms of our library of the motor vehicle ERGs, we'll continuously update these as the manufacturers release the new guides for the cars. And so at the moment, we're just going through the process of collecting all the current ERGs, and then we'll keep our database up to date as and when new vehicles are released.
All right.
So are you, let me ask a question too. What is your capability for offline, or if you go into an area that where you lose connectivity? I know you can't bring in new information, but information that was previously available, how does that work?
Yeah, so we have been talking to FirstNet and making sure we know what's happening in that space. We wish we can solve the connection challenges that's well beyond what we're capable at this stage. But what our thinking is that because we'll know where the incident is, and it integrates with because it integrates with CAD, if we then have a map available of where there's good connectivity, the second you leave the station, it'll be able to indicate that you will lose connection, and then we can actually download the information in real time at that point. So it does mean that, unfortunately, it's not going to keep updating, but you get relatively current information. So that is some functionality that we're hoping to build over time, and at least giving you kind of awareness and giving you as current as possible information en route.
And do you have some specifics on your hardware that you recommend for utilization of the software?
Yeah. So this is obviously optimized for tablet. We wanted to be very generic so that people could use what they have. But we would recommend, not all tablets are created equal. The tablet that your grandma uses to play on Facebook and read is not going to necessarily have the strength that you need to see all of this data quickly. So if you can invest in something a little bit more grunty, we're happy to help with the process if you don't have one already. But I think it's important to make sure that it's actually something that is reliable and has some speed behind it. All right.
And I have one more here. So the customization, what does that entail from a local department's perspective for their local CAD or RMS? What does that entail from that department's perspective?
When it comes to your own in-house data, I would suggest doing a pilot, which would start with a workshop with your IT team or equivalent, and we'll assess the effort and value of integration and build out a roadmap. This phase is likely to take 3 or 4 weeks. All right, well, I won't keep everyone any longer than we need to. Feel free to reach out. I have put my details are on the side of the slides, my own email address, and you can see a bunch of different ways of contacting us on social media there. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, and would be very keen to hear, where to next and what you would like to see developed. So thank you very much for your time.
Great, David. Thank you very much for your presentation today. Everyone, we look forward to have this up on the website where you can review it and share it and then get that information. If you're interested in contacting Debbie, please let me know. And before we get all contact information up there, I can provide that to you. So Debbie, Lou, Tom, thank you all very much for your presentation today. And we hope to see everybody on another webinar next month. Great. Take care, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Kim.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Kim. Bye.
Bye-bye.